if you make a lot of mistakes in your life, today is a perfect day.
Okay.
Yes, today's specifically, this Ekadashi is perfect for those who have gone down the wrong path once or twice in their life.
Make a lot of mistakes in your
Right.
life.
So, yeah, if you devote yourself to spiritual activity today on Sri Ekadashi, I mean, best if you can fast and be wholly and solely engaged in spiritual activity all day. But whatever you can do, today is a great day for redemption. So, yes, take advantage of the auspicious Ekadashi day. But it can be very inauspicious if one chooses to do material activities. And I've seen many times over, especially devotees who know better, or should know better, that when they choose to do materialistic things on these days, the Lord, He punishes them sufficiently, out of love. Out of love. I was telling you that one time there was hay bales we were doing at the farm, and so he made a really big stink. It could have waited, and I was saying it's a Ekadashi. We should not put all this thing. But he's running the farm. He's got so many other considerations, and he said, "No, fine. You take today off, but I'm working today. I don't care." I was like, okay. And all those hay bales that he collected, they fell all over the street. And he had to spend so much time cleaning them up on that day. But that's one of many, many, many instances I've seen where if you don't give sufficient consideration to the Ekadashi, especially when you're a devotee and you should know better, then the Lord has to chastise you with love, or love you with chastisement, so to say, just so you know to do better. So anyway, today's one of those days. We've been talking about, in Bhagavatam, the Lord leaving. We talked about crying for the Lord. Then we talked about some of the qualities of women yesterday, and some of the dynamics of men and women. Also, we talked about a little bit how the earth naturally provides jewels and things like that, mentioning the jewels on the umbrella that Arjuna was holding to Krishna as Krishna was departing Hastinapur. Remember, Krishna is leaving now. But many things come up in the Bhagavatam, and especially with Prabhupada's purports, so many things that the Western mind, or even the modern mind, because now the whole world kind of is globalized to some degree, whereas, there's an interesting phenomena. Sometimes I meet some Indian boys who are more American than I am, and then they might remark, "Hey, you're more Indian than I am," So, it just depends on what one is likes in life, I suppose. But yeah, a lot of the cultures of the world are blending and globalizing, and Srila Prabhupada actually, he saw that, and he wrote these purports for the modern world so that we could properly understand Bhagavatam. So, before we go any further, let's chant our prayers to the Gurus. Tanmay, is this TV not on? Why is this not on? And you could also use the mouse if you want to. Well, you guys know these prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishlam Svapitam Yena Bhutale. Just check it's plugged in. Svayam Rupa Kadamaya Vidati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Nisha Anvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Nostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Nisute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamine Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachadine Vishesha Shunyavadi Ashrata Deshatadine. Yes. Very good, Tanmay. You just had to plug the wire into the TV.
No, just plug in, I removed and again.
Yes, it was loose, and I saw just all you had to do is push it in a little more, and then the light came on. No problem. Okay, here we go. This is a nice photo. So, we'll continue with the Bhagavatam. And as Krishna is departing, now we're going to see two other personalities. Also Arjuna was mentioned last time. Now we'll see two other great personalities who are also going with Krishna. Udhava Satyakishchaiva. It's on the screen. P is trying to... Vyajane Paramadbhute Vikirya Manakusumai Reje Madhupati Pati. Okay. Uddhava, a cousin brother of Krishna's. Actually, he's a very, very special personality. Like one of the topmost servants of Krishna is Uddhava. Even more important than the Bhagavad Gita is the Uddhava Gita. Is the Gita given to Uddhava at the end of the Bhagavatam. Very, very powerful Gita. But you should read all of the preliminary sections of the Bhagavatam to have access to the Uddhava Gita. There's a reason Uddhava Gita comes at the end. There's a lot of foundational information that has to be there. So, Satyaki. Satya is his driver. It's a great friend of Krishna and relative. Cha, and Eva, certainly. Vyajane, engaged in fanning. Parama Adbhute, decorative. Vikirya Manaha, seated on scattered. Kusumai, flowers all around. Reje, commanded. Madhupati, the master of Madhu, who is Krishna. Pathi, on the road. It's interesting. Uddhava and Satyaki began to fan the Lord with decorated fans, and the Lord, as the master of Madhu, seated on scattered flowers, commanded them along the road. Okay. Commanded them along the road. Next verse. Ashruyanta Shisha Satyas Tatra Tatra Dvijeritaha. Does that make it easier? Nanurupascha Nirgunasya Gunatmanaha. Okay. Ashruyanta, being heard. Good morning, Craig. Hare Krishna. Ashishaha, benediction. Satya, all truths. Tatra, here. Tatra, there. Dvija iritaha, sounded by learned brahmanas. Na, not. Anurupa, befitting. Anurupa, fitting. Cha, also. Nirgunasya, of the absolute. Guna atmanaha, playing the role of a human being. All right. it was being heard here and there that the benedictions being paid to Krishna were neither befitting nor unbefitting, because they are all for the Absolute, who is now playing the part of a human being. And Prabhupada is saying, at places there were sounds of Vedic benediction aiming at the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The benedictions were fitting in the sense that the Lord was playing the part of a human being, as if a cousin of Maharaj Yudhishthir. But they were also unfitting because the Lord is absolute and has nothing to do with any kind of material relativities. He is nirguna, or there are no material qualities in him, but he is full of transcendental qualities. In the transcendental world there is nothing contradictory, whereas in the relative world everything has its opposite. In the relative world, white is the opposite conception of black, but in the transcendental world there is no distinction between white and black. Therefore the sounds of benedictions uttered by the learned Brahmins here and there appear to be contradictory in relation with the absolute person, but when they are applied to the absolute person, they lose all contradiction and become transcendental. One example may clear this idea. Lord Sri Krishna is sometimes described as a thief. He is very famous amongst his pure devotees as Makana Chora. He used to steal butter from the houses of neighbors at Vrindavan in his early age. Since then he is famous as a thief. But in spite of his being famous as a thief, he is worshipped as a thief, whereas in the mundane world a thief is punished and is never praised. Since he is the absolute personality of Godhead, everything is applicable to him. And still, in spite of all contradictions, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is kind of a little bit about the position of Krishna, where even if it seems like he does bad things, it's all absolute, it's all incredible. The Makana Chora, or the stealer of butter. So this is his Krishna's position, but he's glorified as the stealer of butter because it's transcendental pastimes, and he does it so wonderfully that it's amazing. He's glorified for his dallying with the young girls of Vrindavan. When we dally with young girls inappropriately, it's abominable. But when he does it, there's a higher absolute position to the whole activity that makes it glorious and makes it wonderful. So this is the difference between Krishna and us. And so all types of praises in the benedictions were neither befitting nor unbefitting, because they were all for the absolute. And ultimately, Krishna is transcendental to the prayers that we may make. He is transcendental to all of these things. But it's in our best interest to pray towards him, because that's where our consciousness should be aimed. But it's not that yes, Krishna needs to hear. Like you hear Brahma in his prayers after the Brahma Vimohan Leela, they're so elaborate. We sing some of them in the morning, the Govindam prayers. Brahma, he's praying, exclusively to Krishna. Now, Krishna isn't so attracted to these prayers as he is to the chastising of Mother Yashoda, But you think, these prayers are describing so elegantly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so elegantly describing the Lord. And this is Mother Yashoda, chastising him, calling him a little Makana Chora, like a little butter thief. How does that make sense? That Krishna enjoys this more? Why? What is the ingredient? Love. Yes. Well, there's more love. There's more love there, and that's what Krishna's Rasa Shekhar. He's the connoisseur of ras. He's the connoisseur of really love. The nectar, the juice of love. That's what he's looking for. He's not looking for the elegance. He's not looking for the refinement of your practices. He's very good. He's getting up at 2 a.m. every morning. He's chanting this many rounds. He's doing like this. These may be symptoms of love that you may have for Krishna. It's not that we're not trying to do the, what is that, what is it, a parigraha? No. What's the one, niyamagraha. There's 2 levels of niyamagraha. The one, to not care for the rules altogether. This is foolish. The second level Niyamagraha, is to care for the rules so much and think it's all about rules. Both are foolish. This is mentioned in the Nectar of Instruction or Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Both are foolish. To discard the rules, foolish. To care so much and emphasize only the rules, foolish. What should the rules facilitate? Bhakti, yes, pure bhakti. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam. Not covered by jnana, karma, and adi, which is like yoga, renunciation, these things. It's purely love. And the rules and regulations of the scriptures set a good foundation so that you can actually cultivate love. Because if you're doing the things that break all the rules, the reason that they're forbidden is because they block you from having love. Like for instance, let's just say, intoxication. Where is the love? If you're drunk, how can you really express love? You can't even clearly see things. Let's say another one. Sexual desire, very prominent, most prominent thing in the material world. This desire for the physical body and attraction to the physical is the ultimate pinnacle of illusion. Thinking that we are this body and they are this body. Not at all acknowledging who they really are and who you really are. And this attraction is purely for the physical. That's why it exists. And that's why it's the thing that keeps the material world running. But if we actually become in knowledge, we become... how can we be attracted to that thing? So over time, this is learned over time, actually. Actually get married. If you realize this, you don't need to get married. If you don't yet realize this and the attraction is still there, then you get married and you'll realize it. This is as Craig is an experienced man, the intimate attraction between a young man and young woman was so strong at one point, but over time, it's natural, right? It decreases. It absolutely will. If you don't yet realize, just get married. You will realize. That's the point of the ashram.
Nectar in the beginning, poison in the
He's saying, I'm not saying. Yes, it's in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says it as well. This is happiness in the mode of passion. Yes, so we have to be very careful. But the Lord, He is beyond all these things. Anything He does, He gets married, it's glorious. He's dallying with girls unmarried, it's glorious. He's a thief, it's glorious. He's following all His dharmas, it's glorious. But this is the nature of the Absolute. Everything meets all contradictory natures that this material world has. They meet their resolution in the Absolute. They meet their resolution in the Lord. And the Lord shows exactly how all contradictions can be synthesized. It's actually, it's quite amazing. But, a lot of times we think, I'll imitate the Lord. Like, for instance, Lord Shiva is known that he can smoke what is it? How do they say? Ganja. Yeah, that's what I used to say all the time. Ganja. Right? I was like, Ganga? I was like, no, that doesn't sound right. He can smoke ganja. He takes ganga on the head. But anyway, he can smoke ganja. But also, Lord Shiva can drink a whole ocean of poison. So unless you have the ability to drink oceans of poison, you should not try to imitate these things of Lord Shiva. Similarly, Krishna, he dallied with the young girls in Vrindavan. This is very attractive. I would like to dally with all the young girls. Is it not? Is this not the tendency of the male human mind? And the young lady, I would love to dally with the young men, or one young man in specific. Whatever is going on in the mind. But Krishna can also lift a mountain on his pinky. Should we try and imitate it, thinking, oh, yes. Krishna steals, and he's cute stealing, and he creates so much love and attraction with his stealing. Should we steal and see how it works? Will everyone think it's very cute when I steal? Will Wegmans think it's very cute? For me, I'm just a little butter thief. So you get in the jail. Like this. We cannot imitate. We cannot try and imitate. And if we try and imitate, we will be punished. It's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. So, this is kind of mentioned in this verse. But ultimately, all is glorious. All is, you can't really describe the Lord in full, because he also has that opposite quality that meets its resolution. Like Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is preaching Dharma so heavily. But you see how he actually is a little boy. He's lying, he's stealing, he's dancing with the young girls. He's doing all these adharmic things. But he can do them properly. He all these things can meet their pinnacle in him. So this is actually the nature of God. Everything is all it's transcendental. Everything is good. Is above these. He's said to be near guna. Guna means qualities, not just qualities, material qualities. The modes of nature are the three gunas. But he's near guna. He is not associated with those. He's transcendental. He's above these. So anything he does is wonderful. What is that? Adbhuta? Is that the word? Adbhuta means wonder? Yes? Yeah. So this is the name. This is the quality of Krishna. He has all spiritual and transcendental qualities, and everything he does is so wonderful. So anyhow, let's continue. Text 20. Anyonyam asit sanjalpa uttama shloka chetasam kodavendra purastrinam sarvashruti manoharaha. Anyonyam, among each other. Asit, there was. Sanjalpa, talking. Uttama shloka, the supreme who is praised by selected poetry. Uttama is like topmost, and shloka is, verses. Chetasam, I mean. Of those whose hearts are absorbed in that way. Kaurava Indra, the king of the Kurus. Pura, capital. Strinam, all the ladies. Sarva, all. Shruti, the Vedas. Manaharaha, attractive to the mind. Translation. Absorbed in the thought of the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is glorified in select poetry, the ladies on the roofs of all the houses of Hastinapur began to talk of him. This talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. So the ladies on the roofs of the houses of Hastinapur began to talk of him, and this talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that all the Vedic literatures, the goal, is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Factually, the glories of the Lord are depicted in such literatures as the Vedas, Ramayana, and Mahabharata. And in the Bhagavatam, they are specifically mentioned in respect to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, while the ladies on the tops of the houses in the capital of the kings of the Kuru dynasty were talking about the Lord, their talk was more pleasing than the Vedic hymns. Anything sung in the praise of the Lord is Shruti mantra. There are songs of Thakur Narottam Das, one of the acharyas in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, composed in simple Bengali language. But Thakur Vishwanath Chakravarti, another very learned acharya of the same Sampradaya, has approved the songs by Thakur Narottam Das to be as good as Vedic mantras. And this is so because of the subject matter. The language is immaterial, but the subject matter is important. The ladies, who were all absorbed in the thought and actions of the Lord, developed the consciousness of Vedic wisdom by the grace of the Lord. And therefore, although such ladies might not have been very learned scholars in Sanskrit or otherwise, still whatever they spoke was more attractive than the Vedic hymns. The Vedic hymns and the Upanishads are sometimes indirectly directed to the Supreme Lord, but the talks of the ladies were directly spoken of the Lord, and thus they were more pleasing to the heart. The ladies' talks appeared to be more valuable than the learned Brahmins' benedictions. This is really interesting that this came up today, because I was having some thoughts. I was a little hesitant. We're singing the English. Kalakanta has this wonderful book where he's provided English to match the songs of the bhajans of our acharyas, and we're singing them. And so, I know a lot of people within the devotee community who would be like, well, Prabhupada didn't do that. We should follow Prabhupada. We should never deviate like this. But actually, this verse actually proves them wrong, in my opinion. That what is the point of singing? What is the point of bhajans? The point of bhajans is to glorify the Lord. And so yes, the meaning of the bhajan might glorify the Lord, but if you don't know the meaning of the bhajan, you're just saying words. You're just saying sounds. You're not actually doing the bhajan. The bhajan is something from the heart. So if you don't know what it means, how can it be from the heart? Like this. Now, that being said, this is the proof here is in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he composed bhajans in Sanskrit. We sing Samsara Davana Lalita Loka Tranayaka. This is all Sanskrit. But he's glorifying, he's fourth in the line of Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur, what did he write his bhajans in? Bengali. Simple Bengali language is mentioned here. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. This is Bengali. This is a different language. This isn't the language of the Vedas. No, this is Bengali language. So actually, when we sing in English, this is very, very potent, actually, because we understand English. Now, you guys might understand, I don't think you understand Bengali, but you might understand a little Sanskrit, but probably not as much as English. So when we sing in English, it's very potent. Why? Because we know we can actually give our heart to this. And it's more attractive to the Lord when your heart is, even though it may not be, English is not a perfectly composed language like Sanskrit. Bengali is not a perfectly composed, nor Hindi a perfectly composed language like Sanskrit. But the Lord will like so much more. It says here, the talk was more attractive than the hymns of the Vedas, more attractive than the Sanskrit, because the simple talks of the ladies were with love, with really deep affection. This is what Krishna likes. Yes.
Kishore Mohan and Sudeva were telling a story where they were singing a bhajan, or someone was singing a bhajan, and Narayan Maharaj came down, and he saw that they were singing from the songbook rather than singing from like their heart and from remembering. And he said, if Lord Chaitanya heard, he would be so happy. But then he would see that you were just simply reading words, and he would start to cry. Because they're just reading like the Sanskrit, but they're not. They didn't take it in, they're not understanding. So.
Yeah. I mean, even if we just read the songbook and we're just reading words, but actually the meaning isn't there, the feeling isn't there. Even English, even we say we're reading the English, but then the meaning and the feeling isn't actually there. That's not what attracts Krishna. Krishna is looking for love. He's not looking for how well you do a routine. Oh, he's very regulated. Yes, Craig.
There's a story somewhere where devotee, he couldn't even read or something. He had the Bhagavad Gita, but he knew the essence of the Gita.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he used to recite the Gita every day, but he was illiterate. So he would recite so many things wrong. He couldn't read properly. He would hold it upside down. And his guru told him to do that. He was just following his guru's order. But actually, when he would do that, in his heart and mind, he would have sphurti, which is like spiritual vision of Krishna and Arjuna in the Gita, and he would be in ecstasy. And so the pundits at the temple, this is on Lord Chaitanya's South Indian tour, the pundits at the temple, they would kind of scoff, who is this man? Every day he's doing everything improperly. But he was crying ecstasy every day, reciting the Gita wrong, like not saying any of the things right. But why? He actually achieved Krishna, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went there, he actually gave him his darshan, which this is now Krishna himself coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? Because there's so much love. There's so much love. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified this man, glorified his devotion, his bhakti, over all of the pundits who do everything by the book and the regulation and this, that, and the other. Because there was real bhakti there. So this is the essence. Well, this is the difference between, it's called Raganuga and Vaidhi Bhakti. Vaidhi Bhakti, it should be there. Even the man who was reciting the Gita, he was following the orders of his guru, which are like, you could say, the Vaidhi, the system that was given to him. But he was limited and unqualified to, do everything perfectly by the scriptures. But the love was so spontaneous and so much there that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he's topmost. Of this whole assembly here, he's topmost. So like this. I know you guys have to go. Michael, enjoy your last day at work. I look forward to your new career coming. So, very good. And happy Ekadashi. Craig, Hare Krishna, thanks for joining. Happy Ekadashi. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Haribol. All right. So like this, and it's not about the, not the routine. It's not the words. It's not, the actual activities that we do should facilitate the evoking of love. That's what it's for. It's not just like, who does the routine the best. It's not about that at all, actually. It's about how much love is being stimulated. And these activities, if you understand the meaning and the proper, even the arati and what each offering, each article and item means, it completely changes the activity where you can actually stimulate bhakti. But this is... it's rare, and usually you have to learn the routine first. The Vaidhi, the rules. You have to learn the rules. You have a structure. If there's no structure, then you'll just be all over the place, and you'll be a sentimentalist. And I want to offer the Lord like this, or and you just start doing crazy things because you don't have a structure on how to properly. So it has to be done with guidance and with the blessings of those who have it. That's how bhakti is given. Bhakti comes from bhakti. Bhakti is not earned. It's not like, I can earn. Let me earn my bhakti points I'll read this, I'll do this, I'll do this. We're so caught in this consciousness of earning and deserving, and this is karma, And yes, there's a system that works like that, but bhakti is not part of that system. Bhakti is grace only. You're given the mercy or you're not, So if you do follow all those rules and you somehow please a pure devotee and they can reveal to you the bhakti, then you're in very good fortune. Your karma has gotten you somewhere. But it's not, that's the system. We practice our bhakti until the Lord, He relinquishes more bhakti. He gives a little bit more. And it usually comes almost always through the mercy of a pure devotee, somehow or other. You just keep going, and somehow or other you'll come in contact with a pure devotee, and then they will be able to infuse you with a portion of their bhakti. And then you get elevated. And if you don't make offenses, you can keep elevating like this. If you make offenses, then you will become stagnant. It could take many lifetimes of stagnancy. It's very possible to stay stagnant in many lifetimes. So anyway, these types of things here. But this verse, it's interesting because I was just thinking about this, and I was like a little you could say self-conscious. I was like, what will they think? What will this group think? What will this group think? I have other devotee friends on here. I know this group of devotee friends, they really like rules. And, even this group, what will they think? We're singing in English. I'm teaching the boys to sing in English.
I was thinking that this morning too, actually, when I was listening.
Yeah, but
that is not realized, in this way it's completely in that sense it is more realized, so it's better.
Of course, I mean, and this is the Lord at least confirming to me this is the proper way. The Lord is confirming to me that this is good and this is healthy. But of course, people will always have their opinions, and we have immature opinions in bhakti. 1 year ago, I might have said this is improper. I would have judged the people doing like that. This is improper. But as we mature in our devotion and we understand the essence of things, she's eating oranges back there. But if you squeeze the orange juice, there's juice, there's rust, there's essence in there, and it's very tasty. Even better than the pulp and all the other things that come. So if you get the essence of bhakti, which is the bhakti, the love, it's better than all the rules, and it's better than all of the systems that are put in place. But it takes only a very mature devotee, or a more mature devotee, to be able to realize. So, this, this verse was. What?
This verse was for you today.
This was for me, yes, and also for maybe us. So anyhow, next verse. Savai, how do I say? Savai kilayam purusha puratano. Ya eka asira vishesha atmani. Agre gunebhyo jagadatmanishware. Nimilitatman nishi supta shaktishu. Saha, he, Krishna. Vai, as I remember. Kila, definitely. I am, this. Purusha, personality of Godhead. Puratanaha, the original. Yaha, who. Eka, only one. Asi, existed. Avishesha, materially unmanifested. Atmani, own self. Agre, before creation. Gunebhya, of the modes of nature. Jagadatmani, unto the supersoul. Ishware, unto the Supreme Lord. Nimilita, merged into. Atman, the living entity. Nishisupta, inactive at night. Shaktishu, of the energies. Translation. They said, here he is, the original personality of Godhead as we definitely remember him. He alone existed before the manifested creation of the modes of nature. And in him only, because he is the Supreme Lord, all living beings merge, as if sleeping at night, their energy suspended. Oh wow, what a purport. This is the last thing. There are two types of dissolution of the manifested cosmos. At the end of every 4.32, what is that, billion years, solar years, when Brahma, the Lord of one particular universe, goes to sleep, there is one annihilation. At the end of Lord Brahma's life, which takes place at the end of Brahma's 100 years of age, in our calculation, at the end of 8.64 billion times 30 times 12 times 100, which is a lot, there is complete annihilation of the entire universe. And in both the periods, both the material energy called the Mahatattva and the marginal energy called Jiva Tattva merge in the person of the Supreme Lord. The living beings remain asleep within the body of the Lord until there is another creation of the material world. And that is the way of the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material manifestation. Isn't it amazing that the Vedic calculations, they're so, they have such a comprehensive system and way to calculate how the cycles of the universe work. Now, the modern science was, oh, this is just like fables or fairy tales, or they just like made stuff up, or how erroneous. There's no way to prove this. But actually, interestingly enough, the closest to modern science, the closest calculators to what modern science is calculating the age of this universe is the Vedic one. What did they just say? 4.3 solar years is, they said, and I think our material scientists have reached a similar calculation, or 4.32 billion. And that's, I think, they say that's how old this Earth is, or something or like this. But anyway, it's we can't prove it one way or another, but it's amazing just how the span, like how could a little person with our perspective, living maybe 100 years, how could we ever calculate what's happening at the billions and trillions level? But somehow they're there. The rishis have these calculations available. So I just think it's amazing. So anyway, the material creation is affected by the interaction of the three modes of material nature set in action by the Lord. And therefore it is said here that the Lord existed before the modes of material nature were set in motion. In the Shruti mantra it is said that only Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, existed before the creation, and there was no Brahma, Shiva, or other demigods. Vishnu means the Mahavishnu, who is lying on the causal ocean. By his breathing only, all the universes are generated in seeds and gradually develop into gigantic forms with innumerable planets within each and every universe. The seeds of universes develop into gigantic forms in the way seeds of a banyan tree develop into numberless banyan trees. The seed of a banyan tree is so small, like a mustard seed. But the banyan tree is one of the biggest trees. It's huge. How much potential is in just the seed? So similarly, the seed of creation given by Mahavishnu. Look at the expanse. What do they say, Parth? What did the modern scientists say? How big is the universe? How much did they say? Come on, I always say it when your friends come.
It's infinite.
They say it's infinite. Actually, the Vedas say there is a finite dimension to it. But from what our scientists can measure with their puny science, it's infinite to them. They can't measure the total length, width, and breadth of the thing. But the Vedas actually quantify the universes, how much they are, at least this universe. So like this, very good. But coming from the small seed, this infinite cosmic creation can be set in motion. This Mahavishnu is the plenary or absolute portion of the Lord Sri Krishna, who is mentioned in the Brahma Samhita as follows. Let me offer. We sing 2 verses from the Brahma Samhita every morning with the deity greeting. That's where it's coming from. Those are prayers of Brahma. Angani Yasya Skalen. That's a cool prayer that we sing every morning, that his limbs can interchangeably fill their operations. See, that's another score for the English, because I actually know what that means now. I was just singing that before, I didn't really know. But meaning like he can taste with his eyes, he can see with his ears. All of his limbs, all of his senses can take in and perform the roles of other senses. That's incredible, actually. But that's actually a description of Krishna. All of his senses, and actually even modern experience, and I can say in my life, one of the symptoms of LSD is that you can actually interchange your senses. Like if you take LSD in enough doses, people have been able to taste colors. I can't even fathom. I took LSD like more times than I should have in my life, but I actually never got to the point where I was tasting colors. But there was a point where I was seeing music. I remember, taking enough, and my buddy was playing like some electronic music, and I just like sat back and went deep into some kind of like spacey consciousness, and I saw the music coming at me, and each note, each one hitting this like little orange vibration, like hitting my consciousness. I was like, what? No, I'm not advertising LSD. Don't do LSD. Don't do drugs. It's not necessary. But I'm just saying, the Lord is always on this consciousness, but all of his senses can do all of the functions of all of this. So imagine. But it is possible. That's all I'm saying, to interchangeably have the senses. I'm not sure how I got there, but I'm always thinking about when we sing that in the morning. Like, his limbs can interchangeably fill all. That's what he meant. He means that description of the Lord, like that. So anyhow, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Govinda, whose plenary portion is the Mahavishnu. All the Brahmas, the heads of the universes, live only for the period of his exhaling, after the universes are generated from the pores of his transcendental body. That's 558 of the Brahma Samhita. And it's explaining the Mahavishnu, giving birth to all of the universes. Thus Govinda, or Lord Krishna, is the cause of Mahavishnu only. The ladies talking about this Vedic truth must have heard it from authoritative sources. An authoritative source is the only means of knowing about transcendental subject matter definitely. There is no alternative. You can't discover. You're not going to be able to discover the infinite Lord with your puny discovering abilities. But if we hear from an authority, one empowered by the Lord, to share him, then we can know. So the merging of the living beings into the body of Mahavishnu takes place automatically at the end of Brahma's 100 years. But that does not mean that the individual living being loses his identity. The identity is there, and as soon as there is another creation by the supreme will of the Lord, all the sleeping, inactive living beings are again let loose to begin their activities in the continuation of past different spheres of life. It is called Suptotita Naya, or awakening from sleep and again engaging in one's respective continuous duty. When a man is asleep at night, he forgets himself, what he is, what his duty is, and everything of his waking state. But as soon as he awakens from slumber, he remembers all that he has to do and thus engages himself again in his prescribed activities. The living beings also remain merged in the body of Mahavishnu during the period of annihilation. But as soon as there is another creation, they arise to take up their unfinished work. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 8:18-20. I was just thinking, me and my wife were like, when she got up today, I was just with her, I was trying to chant, but then she wanted to talk about her dreams, which is like a stereotype at least in America. The women love to talk about their dreams, and men do not want to hear about the dreams. But anyway, I ended up listening to her dream, and then it made me recall also a dream I had, and like this. But when we're asleep, we forget everything that we are kind of daydreaming of what's important in this life, right? No matter how much work you have to do, no matter how much responsibility you have in this world, at some point you got to just drop down and forget it all. Is it not? Every day you do this? Some of you were late this morning because you had to do this, right? like this? No problem. But, so actually at some point, the destructions of the universe, the giant cosmic dream has to come to an end, and we all got to drop down back into Mahavishnu and kind of reset. So this is actually all explained. It's very interesting. But again, there's no way to prove it. Our modern science, it's on too vast of a scale. There's no way our modern science would ever be able to prove it. This is where the nature of faith has to come in at some point. Because you can test the Vedas. You can experiment and test the Vedas, and you'll find that it's practical, it works, but at some point, the claims will go way beyond your testing ability. There will be no way to test it any further. But that's why even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna starts with what philosophy? What does he give in the beginning? He does, but it's Sankhya. Sankhya is the analysis of the material universe. It's a very thorough analysis of what's going on in this world. So in this way, Krishna beginning Bhagavad Gita with Sankhya, he's giving that which can be proven with your senses. But at some point, the subject matter in Bhagavad Gita goes way beyond what the senses can measure at this point. And by proper understanding the Sankhya, by proper understanding of that which you can measure with the senses, then it has to come to a point where you can only have faith. Where by the revelation given to you in Sankhya, or given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at some point we're going to reach the originator of the Sankhya philosophy. Does anyone know the incarnation of Krishna that gives Sankhya? Kapila. We'll reach Kapila Dev's Sankhya philosophy, and then at some point it's going to go beyond what we can measure, and we're going to have to take the next gradual steps in the Bhagavatam on faith. Your mind is limited. Your senses are limited. You can only measure so much. This is the Lord's position. It's way beyond the senses. So we have to, he's nirguna. He's beyond the material qualities. So the Lord existed before the creative energy was set in action. The Lord is not a product of the material energy. His body is completely spiritual, and there's no difference between his body and himself. Before creation, the Lord remained in his abode, which is absolute and one. So, continue approaching that absolute Lord. You don't necessarily have to hyper-focus on his super position as the great one, and we're the minuscule little, speck, even though we are a speck of dust essentially at his feet. But we can look at the Lord's qualities, and in our tradition it's recommended to really focus on the sweet qualities of the Lord over the Aishwarya or the the supreme controlling qualities of the Lord, because they're both there. But what ends up happening in the presence of the sweet qualities of the Lord, this Aishwarya gets completely usurped. And you get so intoxicated, like Mother Yashoda, with the sweet qualities of the Lord, that you want to chastise him and punish him and, take him in this type of role, rather than, want to bow before his feet and, like this. But that's not our position. We cannot just jump to that. But by seeing the gradation in the Bhagavatam of the different levels of devotees, we can see the goal is to have such a sweet and intimate relationship with the Lord that all these other God elements of the Lord, the Almighty, the all omniscient one, all of these things become less important than his very, very sweet qualities. So anyway, that will take us plenty of time, maybe many, many lifetimes. Who knows? But the Bhagavatam actually gives you a scope on how to see on what the evolutions of relationship can look like with you and the Lord. And that will give you something to do for eternity. Thank you so much. Happy Ekadashi. Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining online. And yes, we'll continue talking soon.